Black sponsors Ana Maria and Stephen Kellen Foundation, Fogel Family, Platinum sponsor John and Maria Pfeffer, Emerald sponsors Bering Foundation, Proskauer, Gold sponsors Big Sur Partners, Levitin Safra Family, Silver sponsors Puente Uruguay, S.C. Johnson Uruguay, Ambassador Frank Baxter and Catherine Baxter. Bronze sponsors Gregor and Beatrix Medinger, Estudio Seinal, Evertec, Exacta, Altius Group, Da Vinci, with the support of Servieri Monsuárez. Welcome.
Buenas tardes, soy Fernanda Guliac.
I am Fernanda Guliac, Executive Director of Fundacin ReachingU, and on behalf of our team, I am pleased to welcome you to the launch of our second global online campaign. Thank you for joining us for this initial phase when we are gathering from different parts of the world to join efforts for Uruguay's education. Today, in this transmission, it's going to be about 40 minutes. We will share a lot of information on the campaign, the different ways in which you can collaborate. We have the presence of two outstanding scientists from the Institut Pasteur Montevideo, Carlos Batthyány and Gonzalo Moratorio. Both played a key role in the battle against COVID-19 in Uruguay. And Isabel Aznares, a member of our board of directors and also a researcher, will be talking with them. With this meeting, we launch a week of different actions with a single goal: to raise funds to finance educational projects
durante el
in
2022.
2022.
Le doy ahora la bienvenida al presidente del directorio de
I would like to
Fundación.
welcome the chairman of the board of directors of Fundacin ReachingU, Pablo Spiller, who will be joining us from Miami. Welcome, Pablo, and thank you very much, because the board that you chair has once again demonstrated its enormous commitment and generosity with the purpose of the foundation. This year, once again, for every $1 donated, the Fundacin ReachingU board of directors will donate an extra $1
que apoyamos.
for the educational programs. There are $150,000 secured by our foundation's board of directors, just to double every $1 we receive in donations this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernanda. It gives me great joy and pride to be part of this global campaign, which we are celebrating in a very special year for Fundación ReachingU, as we celebrate our 20th anniversary. It is 20 years of a global foundation creating opportunities for those who need them the most in Uruguay. Before we continue, I would like to share with you a video that summarizes part of that 20-year story.
Hace 20 años, un grupo de amigas uruguayas en Estados Unidos tuvo un sueño.
Uruguayan friends in the States had a dream to help their country despite being far away. That's how Fundación ReachingU was born, from a dream to build bridges and bring opportunities to those who need them the most in Uruguay. 20 years later, the dream remains intact, but the road traveled has taken us very far. We created the Milk Bank together with Fundación Álvarez Caldeiro Barcia. We organized ReachingU's Teacher Award in Uruguay together with Varki Foundation and UNESCO. We developed a postgraduate program in education at the Universidad de Montevideo. We funded the growth of schools like Liceo Jubilar, Liceo Francisco de Paysandú, and Anima, Bachillerato Tecnológico, among others.
Hoy nos consolidamos como fundación que impulsa la mejora de la educación de los sectores más vulnerables de Uruguay.
Over the past few years, we have consolidated ourselves as a foundation fully committed to promote better education opportunities for the most vulnerable Uruguayans. 66,000 kids reached, more than $15 million invested. These past 20 years, what began as a group of friends' dream to help people in need became a foundation with global reach, with businesses in Montevideo, New York, Miami, and activities in Punta del Este, Los Angeles, Madrid, Washington, D.C., and Zurich. Over these 20 years, we have brought together foundations, businesses, and individuals from all over the world, achieving a unique effort focused on education in Uruguay. We are ready to face the next challenges with a new image, but with our goal intact, to build a better future for thousands of Uruguayan children and teenagers. Thank you to our donors, volunteers, board members, and to artists, professionals, friends, and collaborators for making it possible. We are proud of everything we have accomplished, and we are excited for what lies ahead. Fundación ReachingU, 20 years.
Y estos 20 años los celebramos comprometiéndonos.
And we celebrate these 20 years by committing ourselves more than ever to our goal. Fernando already mentioned the board's commitment, but I cannot help but express my pride and admiration for the excellent work of the Fundación ReachingU. Our colleagues on the board, our staff, volunteers, collaborators, all working together towards the same goal. A commitment that we have also found in many companies, organizations, and individuals who joined this campaign as sponsors.
Indeed, Pablo. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank each of them, Black sponsors, Ana Maria and Stephen Kellen Foundation and Focal Family, Platinum sponsors, John and Maria Pfeffer, Emerald sponsors, Bering Foundation, Proskauer, Gold sponsors, Big Sur Partners, Levitin Safra Family, Silver sponsors, Puente Uruguay, SC Johnson in Uruguay, Ambassador Frank Baxter and Catherine Baxter, Bronze sponsors, Gregor and Beatrix Medinger, Estudio Seinal, Evertech, Exacta, Altius Group, Da Vinci, with the support of Servieri Monsuarez.
All proceeds raised during this week will be allocated to educational programs in Uruguay, focused on our high priorities areas: training, tutoring and individualized support, training of teachers, educators, and principals, early child development, and socio-emotional education. These are all projects that provide effective and proven solutions to the main challenges of education in Uruguay. As you already know, this year the COVID-19 pandemic continued to severely affect the populations supported by Fundación ReachingU. And that's why we called on you again. As in 2020, we want the education of the most vulnerable Uruguayans to galvanize thousands of people to join in wherever they are. And so these thousands of people will have the opportunity to change the lives of thousands of Uruguayans, children and teenagers. Young people like Jasmine, who participates in one of the projects funded by Fundación ReachingU. Today, we want to share her story with you. My name is Jasmine. I'm 17 years old. I attend high school 33 in La Cruz. This year I was thinking about quitting because I go at night and it's very dangerous. So I was thinking about quitting and sitting for the exams in December and starting my 5th year of high school next year. My parents work as recyclers. They buy bottles and things like that. My father and mother started working when they were 10 years old. We work with a horse-drawn carriage. We get up every morning to take Alexia to school, and we go out to work and we support ourselves with the carriage. My parents tell me that they don't want me to go through the same things they went through, working from a young age. And they want me to have a good future. Now I'm working at in a business, in a recycling company, because that is what I know how to do. I didn't have the opportunity to study anything else.
Yo hace 5 años que voy a Los Tréboles.
I've been going to Los Tréboles for 5 years, and they're helping me prepare for my exams in December. I didn't have the tools to help her without Los Tréboles. In all honesty, I don't even know how to do long divisions. I only finished primary school. I didn't have my parents' support. They were in the same situation as me. Here in Los Tréboles, we work with a vulnerable population. Here they find joy, they find a place where they can study, where they can do recreational activities. Teenagers in this context have trouble projecting into the future. They have trouble talking about hopes and dreams because they and their families live day to day. I had a moment in which I thought I would just let them drop everything and just keep working because we need to survive. But I thought about that, but I never told my kids.
Yo quiero seguir estudiando porque yo estoy
I
pensando
want
en
to
un
keep studying because in the future I want to become a veterinarian. I love animals. I want to ask everyone who sees this video to help to support the foundation. If I could, I would do it for my kids. They've always helped me, and Jasmine is my pride and joy. She exceeded all my expectations. This week, donate, bid, engage. Go to www.raiseyourhandforeducation.org.
En Uruguay hay
In
miles.
Uruguay, there are thousands of young people like Jasmine who needs us to provide them with opportunities to continue studying. As of today, and for 1 week, we kindly ask that you do everything in your power to multiply these opportunities. There are several ways for you to collaborate. All the information is available on the website raiseyourhandforeducation.org.
Perdón, se metió algo. Les estaba contando que ahí estaban pasando la web. Levantá la mano por la
That's the
educación.
website, raiseyourhandforeducation.org is our website. You can access this site from our social media or right now using your cell phones and the QR code displayed on screen. On the campaign website, you can make a donation or bid in our traditional silent auction. You will find more than 200 lots, from works of art to products, services, and unique experiences, such as being able to chat one-on-one via Zoom with different personalities from the world of sports, music, and business, experiences that are truly priceless because they are unique. This auction was put together thanks to the enormous generosity of many individuals. Thank you to all the artists, companies, and personalities have joined us. Thank you very much, Pablo. Now it is time to welcome our special guests. It is our honor to introduce Gonzalo Moratorio, who's a researcher at the Institut Pasteur of Montevideo, and he was chosen as one of the 10 personalities of 2020 by Nature magazine, and Carlos Batthyány, executive director and head of the Vascular Biology and Drug Development Laboratory at the Institut Pasteur of Montevideo. Like I was saying before, they both played an outstanding role in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic in Uruguay. They will discuss this and other topics with Isabel Aznares, co-founder and group VP of the Discovery Research at Stoke Therapeutics. In addition to being our guest's colleague, because she's also a scientist and researcher, Isabel is a member of the board of directors of Fundacin ReachingU, and she's joining us from Boston in the United States.
Estás muteada, Isabel.
Perdón. Muchas gracias, Fernanda,
Sorry
por la
about that. Thank you, Fernanda, for the introduction. Thank you so much, Carlos and Gonzalo, for joining us today, where we are reaching our global campaign for Reaching You, and mostly for the enormous contribution that you have made to our country. When the world was becoming a dark place, scientists around the world and you and your colleagues at the Institut Pasteur here in Uruguay were developing knowledge and hope. And well, you became the heroes of this bizarre film that we had to star. I would like to start with a question for both of you. When the pandemic started, how were you able to adapt the facilities and your labs to face this new reality?
Bueno, primero que nada, felicitar a la Fundación.
Firstly, I want to acknowledge the great work of the foundation over these last 20 years, supporting vulnerable students and young people. It's very hard for me to speak after seeing the Jasmines reality, and I think that's very important. Gonzalo was honored to let me start. And when in March 13, when we had the first positive COVID cases in Uruguay, there was an initial work which Gonzalo is going to speak more on. But March 2 is a day that I remember deeply. We had a board meeting at Institut Pasteur, and because I'm not a virologist, I was smart enough to ask Gonzalo and Dr. Otto Pritch, director of the Institute at that moment, both of them very experimented in virology, to come with me to the meeting. And in that meeting, briefly, it was, please be ready. We need to deal with this at home, in our country. We're not going to get help from elsewhere. So what ended up happening was very serious. As a doctor, I had never lived through a pandemic. I was not aware of what was going to happen. But we received that from Paris, from China, from Hong Kong, that advice, and we transmitted it to the Ministry of Health. And on March 16, it was a Monday, and it was when everything actually began. In that first week, with Otto Pritch was very strategic. He was the director, academic director of the Institut Pasteur, and with the help also of Gonzalo, we developed a methodology, different strategies, and we made what I think now was the right decision. We were not a hospital. And I'm citing from what we said in the meeting. We were not a hospital, so we were not forced to stay open. And we were not a school, so we were not forced to shut down. So we could, what we decided is to have the Institute open doors, but to have the goal of developing methodologies focused on COVID-19 and development of tests. So Pilar Moreno and Gonzalo are the big protagonists in this part of the story. I want Gonzalo to tell the details of why he was a protagonist. Thank you, Carlos. Some
la gran notoriedad que tuvo todo esto, el Uruguay tuvo la posibilidad en un momento.
All of this was very notorious in Uruguay, widely publicized, and the
Estados Unidos
the
fallaron.
European Union, the United States. Everyone was talking about the testing capacities, and we could see how vulnerable we were to face an invisible enemy and to be able to have the resources needed to control the dissemination, uncontrolled dissemination of a virus that is so dangerous as this one. So with Pilar and the rest of the group, we were able to generate a test that was already was ready for use on the first day that the first cases were reported in Uruguay. So I underestimated the virus, but not only me, we all did. Carlos, as director of the Institute, had to convince the people that were taking the actual decisions, politicians and authorities, the authorities of the public hospitals, of the ministry, and different important bodies.
Del sistema científico hacia el sector salud.
How can we redirect the scientific sector towards the health, the public health sector? And that was possible because there was a scientific community in Uruguay, which of course is academic, as every scientific community. We are deeply rooted in basic science, science that just works for curiosity of learning things. So how were we able to do this? The only way in which we could reach what we did was the same as with other great discoveries in history. Not just continuous improvement of something, it was because of believing in the capacities of the individuals for being flexible, for being creative. Because science needs to be rooted in curiosity, and that was many people trusted in us as scientists. It was very motivating, it was very challenging. We will always remember it. Institut Pasteur was the first diagnostical institute doing these tests for the public health authorities, but also we generated the knowledge for universities elsewhere in the country and for the public health authorities to be able to apply tests. And so this didn't happen in other parts of the world where the scientists were just stayed at home and stopped working. Here in Uruguay, as scientists, we were given the chance to show what we're capable of.
Me encanta la historia, es como con la garra charrúa, ¿no?
I love this story. It's like the spirit of Uruguay, that we are fighters. So it's incredible what you managed to do in so little time compared to other countries that maybe have more resources than us. And following with that topic, Gonzalo, from the changes that were done, what are the facilities that remain in our country after the pandemic, and what are the opportunities that we lost, in your opinion? Well, maybe it sounds like a cliche, but the facility, the capacity more important that was installed here, no good for us to be an engine, is the trust that society and people put on us, the discovery of what the scientific community, their scientific community can do. So who are we? What can we do? Every story needs a face. So we are individual people, scientists, that work in the darkness, in anonymity. So first, that trust, that discovery of the person behind the science. So in the other point, the material and physic things that were left,
pedir absolutamente nada a cambio, lamentablemente
regrettably, the system, the health system couldn't keep up like in other countries. Not talking about France or the States. I'm saying countries like Argentina that could give resources to research. Spain also invested a lot of its resources on it. You can say that the European Union was behind it, but it still invested a lot on science and technology. Germany did so
creo que
as
acá
well.
faltó
And I think here we had a bit of trouble with that, and I hope that we're still in time to jump aboard this ship. When we talk about other elements like knowledge economy or how to do this trip, we can talk about it some more. Thanks to gestures like this foundation had, we could achieve frameworks that are of the latest technology. We have a lot of centers now. For example, we have technological vigilance center in the Institut Pasteur, but we need to get aboard the ship, not of tomorrow, of today.
Sí. Y bueno, Carlos, un poco
Carlos,
siguiendo en el tema
following in that
recursos,
resources and facilities and capabilities. I wanted to start with you. I wanted to talk to you about your work in attracting investment for the scientific sector in Uruguay. And I wanted to ask you to tell us about your experience in the Class Venture Builder. What is it about? And how do you think it can help better the entrepreneurial environment in Uruguay? Thank you, Isabel. First of all, I would like to tell that Atlas comes to fill a space in Uruguay that wasn't filled, and it comes from a diagnostic that, like Gonzalo said, it's a great truth that today no one can argue that science, technology, and innovations are pivotal to the development of countries, and that comes from our research. Our president in Instituto Pasteur, Pascal, wrote a book about this, and that's a diagnostic that's very clear. On the other hand, if you go deeper, you find that Uruguay has serious problems. We have few researchers. We don't invest as much in technology and research. 90% of what is invested in science and technology in Uruguay is done by the state. It's public funds, so private companies don't participate, and we have few scientists that are not in academia. It's just 1% of scientists. Only 1% works in private companies. So those are indicators that, as a country, make us not being able to join the knowledge economics and the economy that helps countries develop in short bursts. So what we're proposing is a generator, a builder of companies, and the type of companies we want is scientific and technological in life sciences, health in general, And those companies that are based in a single knowledge, in a revolutionary knowledge, and that can be protected in an intellectual way, so that as private companies want to invest, take those solutions to the market, not just the Uruguayan market, but the global market. So we need to be able to do what we did during the pandemic, but for the world. And we think it's possible to do it in Uruguay. It has been done in other countries, and the success is unbelievable. And we can dream that with these kinds of tools, like Uruguay did with ICT technologies, in a period of 20 or 30 years, Uruguay can double its internal gross product. And I'm not just saying this out of thin air. There has been studies, and it's seen that the countries that invested in technological sciences with a project of country behind it had a greater growth than others that didn't. So other countries could manage. So can we do it in Uruguay? With this venture of Pasteur, and we're using just private funds, we want to do a proof of concept so that in 20 years politicians can make decisions based in real evidence made in Uruguay. In that world, Isabel, which you know very, very privately.
Yo creo que vayan para adelante, porque no.
This is a great idea. I wish you all of the luck. It's very important to make this kind of investments, and the proceeds can be huge in terms of the outcomes. So Gonzalo, this model discussed by Carlos, as Carlos was mentioning, it requires highly qualified staff. Thankfully, in 2021, enrollment in the Facultad de Ciencias at the University of the Republic grew by 50%, which is an excellent news, and it reflects what people have experienced in terms of the importance of science in the context of a public health emergency. So what do you think about the situation of Uruguay in terms of retaining all of the young scientists, young talents to here in our country instead of abroad? Regarding the enrollment, it's a very, very important responsibility and great news for people who actually make decisions in our country. It's a clear signal that science must be considered as a state policy, and it's a state issue and not a government issue. And our degree as scientists is international. We don't have to homologate anything. If you're a PhD in biological sciences, you can work anywhere you want. So what I think is that the development of policies that stimulate this kind of entrepreneurial ecosystems, taking into consideration biotechnology, what it means today, technology and the industrial development nowadays, with the importance that artificial intelligence has gained, this is changing the world. And as Carlos was discussing, we were able to do it 15 years ago with the information technologies. So, as my colleague and friend Magdalena Cárdenas, also from Institut Pasteur, also says, what we need to ask ourselves is what is the connectivity of the information? No, it's which are the countries that will have a longer life expectancy, which are the ones that will be able to cure people from a specific disease. So this is a very nice challenge where we have to reshape our way of thinking as scientists. We need to play different cards. We need to stimulate the private sector very strongly. We need to end with this black and white perspective of applied science or basic
No quiere
science.
decir que muchos jóvenes
We need to
salgan,
understand
el tema de
that.
retenerlos para que la audiencia entienda, sino que es bueno salir, está bien que
So
salgan.
for everyone to understand, it's good for scientists to go abroad, to study and to travel, to work abroad. That department number 20 of Uruguay, which is all of the collectivity of Uruguayans living abroad, which is huge. Israel is a good example in this sense. It's very important to take them into consideration and to help them from within. But we need to have, the country needs to have the conditions so that these Uruguayans can help us improve the quality life of our society. Yes, I agree. And this is something that I lived personally. When I graduated from Facultad de Ciencias, the School of Sciences, options were very reduced. Things have changed a lot. This was back in 97.
Como yo, otros optaron por salir del país.
But when I left the country, other colleagues of mine also made the same decision because of the context. And those of us who live abroad, through things like Reaching You, we are able to return in part what the country gave us. And so I really hope that this inspires people who are living abroad to give back to our country what it gave us in terms of education, which was huge. So I'm very aware of this wherever I may be. I was able to reach many goals thanks to the Uruguayan education. So speaking of education, Carlos, as a person who is committed to education in Uruguay, not only at the college level, but throughout the entire educational cycle, what are you most concerned about the future of our country? And what do you think can be the contribution of organizations like Institut Pasteur or Fundacin ReachingU? Well, Isabel, I have been teaching at tertiary level for many years, but education is a very, very complex area, and it's not my what I specialize in. But looking at watching the video of Jasmine, it really deserves a deep view. I think students deserve an education that is designed to create and train individuals who are able to think independently, to take these decisions by themselves, critically, empathetic. I think that in the near future, we will need growing amounts of solidarity, of empathy, and not leave others behind. We need to find the place for all of us to share the world. It shouldn't be a reality that people don't have their space to be, to live, to have an education. So as Piaget used to say, the main objective of education is to generate a person who is able to create new things and not just copy what others have done before. That is very linked to our tasks in investigation and research. So some of my colleagues say that school is a place where many verbs are conjugated. So school is a place to be curious, to listen, to empathize, to be sympathetic, empathic, to do, to learn, but overall to just be. That's where we need to aim. not just think about the academic content, the resources, but really focus on people, individuals that are empathetic, that can take decisions independently. That is possible, and in Uruguay, we have serious problems in that sense.
Gonzalo, would you like to add something on this topic? I think we have some time. Let me know if we're going over. We have a few more minutes, but not long. Gonzalo, if you just have anything to say about this. I think Carlos was very concise. I just want to say that in education, it's good to give visions from different perspectives. Before, it was important to make sure kids know what a keyboard is or know how to relate to the computer. Maybe tomorrow, these technologies that are changing the world, for example, robotics, biotechnology, also need to be tools that we need to consider so as not to be left behind. With the development of the human being, with a power of decision and critical mentality above all. Yeah, decision power is something that's really hard to teach, but it's fundamental. Now, I want to say goodbye, but before I want to ask a question that I'm sure everyone has asked you. When and how do you believe that this pandemic is going to end? Who wants to answer? I was wrong in my initial diagnostic, so I am not going to do another diagnostic. But what I'm going to say is that I'm convinced that this virus is going to circulate until we have the solidarity to vaccinate every human on Earth. It's inconceivable to live in a country in a world that has countries like ours that we all have been vaccinated 3 times, and we have other countries around us that have not been vaccinated. So it all comes back to solidarity and being human beings and caring for the people that are next to us. And using that as a takeoff strip, I think the word endemic, it's a common situation. The phrase Carlos just said, we need everyone to be vaccinated. Clearly, the inequality is not the way. And the correcting of that is going to be gradual. It's going to be a very soft transition. And it's going to depend on different realities. But above all, even when we have the global immunity, think about, for example, influenza virus. When we're 3 years old, we already have immunity of that. And the virus still exists. It's very controlled, but it's a virus that can cause thousands of deaths. So I think that mainly we need to vaccinate and the evolution capacity that the virus has, and we need to improve our policies of the managing of the public health. And little by little, we are going to get closer to a situation in which important parameters like the infection capacity that the virus has will be lower. We can anticipate the virus and develop vaccine platforms that anticipate the evolution of the virus, like a chess player, and little by little, we will learn how to live with the virus like we live with other things. This is what happened with all great pandemics in the story of mankind. They have all been handled in this way, generally. We don't have the crystal ball, but I think that it will end eventually, and we will get used to living with this new virus. That is going to be the future. No other way around it. Good. So once again, I want to thank all three of you very much for this discussion. It was great to listen to you. There's a lot of information you shared with us, and you were clear and concise with your ideas. I am thinking and reflecting about everything. I remember last year with President Luis Lacalle Pou, the last question was, when will the borders open up? When will we be able to have tourists? And now the question is, when is this going to end? It's uncomfortable questions, but you answered them in a very comfortable manner and very clearly and intelligently and in a very human way. That's what I get when I listen to you. So on behalf of the foundation, we want to thank you for honoring us and accepting our invitation to kick off in this meeting, to kick off our second global campaign to raise your hand for Uruguayan education. I want to thank everyone that has been watching and everyone that will decide to participate. You can participate through the website raiseyourhandforeducation.org, and you can participate in the auctions. And we hope to see you again next Thursday, 28th of October, same time, same day, to chat with Sergio Fogel. So thank you and have a good night.